All right, we will have Katrina Keller from Corsair getting set up here, discussing the presentation, Corsair for Esports Business, Building Better. Corsair is one of our conference sponsors. We are streaming. I'm using a Elgato prompter here. I've got the lights. I've got the whole setup here. And Corsair also supply to all of our streaming hubs with that Elgato streaming equipment. And so we're really happy to welcome Katrina Keller to the digital stage here. After you're able to share your screen, and we'll hand it off to you.
Awesome. Let me know if you can see my screen okay.
Yeah, you might need to do the at the top, swap which screen is being shared because we can see your upcoming notes. If you go back yeah. If you go back to what you just were doing, oh, actually, yeah, it swaps which screen is being shared.
Should be good now.
You got it. All right. Thank you.
Alrighty. Thank you, Dr. Seth, and thank you everyone for ERN for attending. As Dr. Jenny mentioned, we're super proud to be this year's one of your sponsors for the conference. Pretty much all the hubs are using a full suite of Elgato products, which are also amazing. Right now, you're hearing me talk over the Elgato Wave DX. I'm definitely happy to share that this presentation is not going to be a product plug. Just wanted to emphasize, one of the things we'll talk about, one of the elements we'll dive into is how important all this technology is for students and kind of diving into what we're doing in this space to build better and to make sure that the impact we have on the space is genuine and important and moving the industry as a whole in a better direction than maybe some of the corporations and issues we've seen in the past. Just a quick overview of what we'll talk about. First, we'll talk a little bit about myself so you can be a bit more familiar with who I am, as well as Corsair's goals for education. Everyone loves to talk the talk. I'm definitely a talker. Dr. Seth Jenny can attest to that. But we also want to make sure that we can walk the walk and make sure that we prove what we're really interested in doing and our genuine goals for the space are something that aligns very well with a lot of our end users. And of course, there'll be a Q&A afterwards. Feel free to ask any questions about the presentation, about Corsair's view on education, esports, and where we see it going, or also anything outside of that that I might be able to assist with. If after the presentation you're interested in talking some more, you should be able to see my email up there in the top right corner of my little background. So feel free to reach out there and we can definitely catch up. So first, I kind of wanted to dive into a bit more about myself and my background. I've been competing professionally in esports since I was about 12 years old. A little too early, I think, looking back on that retrospectively. But World of Warcraft was a very fun game when I was younger. I took that very seriously and ended up doing a bunch of freelance coaching, really found out that I had a knack for the improvement side of things and the teaching and instruction side of things. So I took that even more seriously and entered a professional career in Overwatch and League of Legends. I was then able to sell a smaller coaching startup company called Gamer Sensei to Corsair back in 2020. And as part of that transition, I've stayed on and slowly grown in my role to kind of control most of what we do in our approach to education. I've reworked a lot of our student programs to be a little bit more focused on a sustainability mindset and really set the tone in how the Corsair for Business team operates with our educational partners. The most important thing I wanted to share is how we keep our finger on the pulse of education and esports. A lot of our product leads and our project leads have extensive experience, not only in the vertical we specialize in, but in the end user roles. I've been the director of a collegiate esports program before, which has given me a lot of very unique background on the role itself, as well as what you're looking for. So in conversations that I have with my esports director partners, it doesn't sound like I'm a corporation. It sounds like I'm a peer, which is great because that's our goal. Our goal is to make sure that we understand the language, that we're invested in that environment, but we also have a much greater idea of what your problems are and how we can help solve them. As much as market research is very important to us, we also have a very big differential between the research and consumer stories. We don't solely rely on one or the other. So whereas we might hear, hey, this is a very important product to make, this is a feature that most consumers care about, we're also really interested in what our direct consumers have to say about it. We've had a lot of products in the past that maybe there's a certain feature we tested out and got some great feedback in the research side, but when it reached the consumer market, we learned some other things that we might have missed or things we wanted to modify. Great example is the Void V2 just came out. The Void is one of our most successful headset lines. It's something I use daily. I don't have them on right now, but the Void V2 is an awesome product that took everything that was great about the Void and made it even better. So making sure that we can kind of balance market research and our consumer stories at the same time is super important to us. Something else that's pretty special is a lot of our product development is consumer centric. So whereas a lot of what we like to do is focused on building better products. Of course, those can get more expensive. So making sure that we can listen back on case studies and provide feedback review loops for our product managers is really important to make sure that the direction we're heading with products makes sense, as well as making sure that what we're developing is something there's a need for in the space. We don't really believe in just making something to make something new. Every product release comes with the latest and greatest technology. Void's a great example. That same kind of form factor that everyone loved about the Void is what the Void V2 is as well. We've made it maybe a little bit more ergonomic. We've added some additional latest features and technology, but we've kept the Void what it always was and what it provided to make sure that our fans of that product line still entertain and receive that same benefit. We also have a lot of products that we've developed specifically for education from feedback with end users. We have a lot of conversations. My calendar is full of them all the time, and I love it. Where part of our partners who we've partnered with in the past to provide some product or they've purchased product from us are able to sit down and have conversations about what's working well and what's not. It allows us the chance to make sure that all of our end users walk away happy from purchases and partnerships, but also making sure that in the future, we can better navigate recommendations to make sure we're giving you the right product the first time and not having to come back and try to figure out how we can make it better for you. We also keep a super open line of communication between Corsair and our partners. Our goal there is if the open line of communication is there, people use it. We don't really believe in having a 72-hour waiting period where you submit a support ticket and then wait to hear back from us. We'd so much rather take that conversation direct, get you an answer to your problem as soon as possible. My calendar is pretty much as open as it possibly could be. So anytime that we have to get those conversations in, we'd rather have them than make you wait, 3 to 4 business days just to get a call back. Probably the most important thing you can glean from this presentation is how focused we are on sustainability. It doesn't just correlate with education in esports. Corsair has been very environmentally sustainability focused for the past couple of years. Pictures of our HQ, I didn't get them in this presentation because it didn't feel right, but there's tons of solar panels on the top of our HQ. And, we're very focused on the sustainability side there. That translates into our mindset for esports as well. There's an insane number of esports programs who are at risk of closure, which honestly sucks because a lot of my friends are esports directors. And fortunately, they reach out to me. I help them figure out what we can do. Corsair gets involved as much as we can in any appeals. I have one project that we're going to be working on pretty soon, which I won't talk about here, but our goal is to try to get as involved as possible with making sure that schools who are in need get that assistance from Corsair. But more importantly, we also take a couple of steps at first to make sure we're not over-indexing on what we're spending. So our advisors, when you have conversations with us, we won't work to sell you products you simply don't need, or maybe you don't need them yet. We'd rather have a conversation about what your need is for space, what your need is for your program, and then conversely, what those program goals are to figure out where you're going long term. Whether that's a first year, a second year, or a 5-year goal, it's important to understand, hey, if you really want to grow this program, a first year investment of $200,000 is great. But if at year 5, you're not going to invest that same amount or more for those next line of PCs, there's going to be a little bit of a problem for sustainability. Our advisors can have those conversations. If you tell me you want a 5090 graphics card just to play Rocket League, I'm probably going to call you a little crazy. But we can have a conversation about how we can reinvest that $4,000 we're going to save you into a top tier broadcast station, like the ones that are being used at all of the ERN hubs right now, or how we can better accommodate that spend. If you have the budget, hey, we'll spend it, but we want to make sure where you're spending it is great and will provide longevity for the program and leads towards that sustainability goal. I'm also happy to recommend clearer focuses if they're necessary. If we have a conversation with an end user and they're an IT director at a school and they don't have the background in esports that most esports directors do have, we actually get involved, and I'll talk about that a little bit in a second, to make sure that they can get that clearer focus and better understand the landscape. As I mentioned before, it's about over 50%. Some people are reporting closer to 70 to 80%, but that feels a little high. Programs are at risk of closure due to financials. Our goal is to make sure that doesn't happen to begin with by being responsible as a partner and also as a brand ambassador, but also making sure that, hey, if those difficulties pop up, we're more than willing to have conversations with end users about what their next steps look like and making sure that we can help out with, if you're at risk of closure, if that's a letter of support, if that's reaching out to board of trustees on behalf as a corporation. These are different things we've done in the past that we're really happy to replicate. We also try to do our best to realign the misalignments between goals for the program and budget. It's one of the first conversations we have, and I know end users aren't happy about saying how big their budget is at the beginning of a conversation. But if I know you only have $20,000, I'm not going to recommend you to go buy a $4,000 PC. So we want to make sure that the budget you have available, as well as your goals for the program, are realistic. It allows us to have a much more conducive and interesting conversation, as well as making sure that what we recommend is useful for you, not just useful for us. We also are a little hesitant on jumping the gun with build-outs. One of the first things I'll ask is if there's an intention for a broadcast station. Broadcasting is one of the most valuable aspects of esports for students, so making sure that's something that you're at least considering in the first year is important. But it also helps us have a conversation about, hey, if you're buying 5090 graphics card systems and you're not considering a broadcast station, what are you using the power for? Because it's not something you need for a lot of our esports titles. So just making sure we can keep it realistic, but also make sure that, hey, if we want to go large and we want to go big, we have the capabilities for that. But we want to make sure that you're ready for those next steps too. At Corsair, I kind of walked or stumbled maybe into the student program ownership. We had a student ambassador program, which was amazing, but I kind of noticed we had to say no to over 250 student applicants each year, and I didn't like that. So my goal stepping into that role was to make sure that what we could offer is something we would really never have to say no. And Corsair Academy is something I kind of built from that vision and operate in that vision. There's kind of three different buckets. They're separated here on the slideshow. The first one is we'd like to offer free professional advice from Corsair for Business. I talked about this a bit before with keeping expectations realistic, but this is a great resource for esports directors who don't have the experience they might have needed prior. If it's an IT director at a college where the administration said, hey, you're the IT guy, you can handle this, right? It's a little more complicated than that. So I'm more than happy to join in and then provide advice on how to start programs. I've given advice to board of trustees on how large an investment should be. I've given advice to directors, one-to-one in a mentorship capacity. Anything we can do to help grow programs, anything we can do to help refocus on sustainability, and anything we can do for clubs who want to take that next step and get the varsity investment, we're also more than happy to help facilitate those conversations. Our second element is free student development resources. Students have always been the core of esports, and they will forever be the core of esports. So this kind of leg of our academy allows us to make sure that students stay the focus on esports and their development stays key. One of my favorite stats to share, and I've been sharing this since 2018, is you have a higher chance of playing in the NFL than you do of playing professional League of Legends. So we would like to make sure that students are level set. Some students are good enough and they are that good. A lot of them aren't, and that's totally fine. But what they don't know is there's so many other roles in esports that you can do. There's so many other job and career paths they can take. This is our kind of area for esports and education where we focus them on that. We love hosting custom events on campus. We don't do broad stroke, hey, it's March, this is what we're doing, sign up if you're interested. We find those don't have great student engagement, and frankly, a lot of them can feel a little stale. So instead, a lot of the activations we do are direct focused on the students at a particular campus. So whether that's maybe you have 5 to 10 social media students, we'd love for our social media manager to come in and talk about their career path, what they love about it, what a day in the job looks like, and give students a greater insight into their career path of choice. I changed my major 5 times in school, so I'm very familiar with not knowing where you want to land. Certainly didn't expect it to be here, but having some extra insight might help students make better financial decisions, especially in their college time. Our Coursera recruiters are more than happy to. This is the biggest thing I'll plug here is if you want a Coursera recruiter to come speak to your students about Coursera internships, those are going to open up pretty soon. And a lot of our internships are very strong and highly rated. So I'd love to have a conversation about what those internships look like, how students can better perform, whether that's on resumes or applications. We've hosted resume workshops, we've hosted mock interviews, and I think in a couple of slides, you'll also see some more in-depth examples of what we've done. But we also integrate education into the classroom. We've done things like final exams being sponsorship pitch decks to a representative from Corsair, where they can provide live feedback about that presentation from the student. Our third and final area we focus on is on free program growth resources. We think there's different elements of program growth that don't require funds, so there's no reason we should say no. The goal with that is access to the Corsair infrastructure, whether that's us providing some connections to other industry partners, using the Corsair for Business logo in an official capacity, and announcing a partnership. Really, a lot of schools come to us and say, hey, our students are really excited about esports, and they really want to see some big name logos up in the space. They want to see a banner. They want to have logos on our jerseys. Those are all things we can make happen via Corsair Academy. We also provide, of course, the event support. It's your generic what you'd think about. Maybe we're giving away a couple of products at a tournament that we're hosting for the local high schools. One caveat we like to add here, and this is a bit more of how we're forward thinking. I have 5 keyboards in my closet I'll never use because they're not the keyboard I like, and I won them for free from tournaments. Instead, we like to provide Elgato products for the team that wins, not necessarily the group of students. The goal here is if you already have an Elgato Stream Deck, you could always use another one. If you haven't started broadcasting these games yet for your school program, a Stream Deck is a great first step to take. So kind of incentivizing the broadcasting and the benefit of esports beyond just being able to play the games themselves. I'll give a couple of super quick examples of some real life value. That way you guys can kind of see again a lot more of the walk, not just talking it. For event support, we had a really exciting opportunity with Mount Aloysius College. We supported their high school LAN tournament. We gave away a couple of peripherals for prizing, as well as some random giveaways. The head coach, Sean, is a great friend of mine, and he had some excellent feedback to give us. Really, the goal here, kind of what we helped make happen, isn't anything necessarily special, but this isn't a large event. It's not something where we got a lot of attention on our brand for. That's never the goal. The goal with these is making sure that students, and especially high schoolers who are looking to enter the collegiate space, which is what this tournament was really positioned well to do, see that there's a lot of brand support for them, and we have a way to break into them. A different activation we did was some mock interviews with Helso College. This is one of our friends over in the pond, the UK side. And I myself attended, I think it was about 10 or 12 interviews over the course of a day. So very busy day for me. And we were able to, regardless of kind of what their background is or what they would like to enter into, we were kind of able to give students some great advice about different interview skills they might want to enhance. We were able to dive into maybe a couple of missteps they took, specifically ending the interview with no questions, giving them a lot of really great insight. At Coursera, I've hired about 400 to 500 contractors over my year for our coaching business. So providing a lot of that experience I've gathered and making sure students can benefit from that. This was also right before the internship season over there in the UK, so this was really great timing for us to get in there and have those conversations. Students were super excited, honestly, just to get interviewed by someone with the name of Corsair. You know, we're a pretty solid business and we're a pretty big brand, so being able to say, keep in mind these are high schoolers, that they were excited for the interviews was amazing. And then finally, one last one. I might have time for one more after this, we'll see. But as a whole, Corsair's partnered with Activision and Bethesda, two really massive studios. our biggest activation we've had to date and one of our more successful campaigns was our Call of Duty Black Ops 6 campaign. We were able to flex kind of every avenue we have in all of our subsidiary brands. A lot of people know Corsair, a lot of people know Elgato, a lot of people know Scuff, but not a lot of people know Corsair actually owns all of them. So we were able to leverage each of those subsidiary brands and customize and create some really insanely cool looking battle stations for fans of these different game titles to participate in. So kind of some highlights there is it's a cross-brand partnership. Like I said, being able to flex all those different brands was awesome. For esports and education, how that looks like is a simplification of support structure, where you don't need to get your broadcasting equipment from one brand, your gaming equipment from a separate brand. You can gather them all from the same vendor. Even if it's an Elgato product, it still comes from the Corsair team. So the support infrastructure looks very similar, and it's a lot easier to get access to those, whether it's a PC that might have a malfunction, you need some tech support in, or if it's an Elgato Stream Deck, you need some help with the marketplace app system for, it'll be the same people coming in to help you out, and that simplifies things greatly. We got some really great feedback from the Senior Director of Partnerships at Activision talking about how our product ecosystem provides everything gamers need. That's really one of our main focuses, is to make sure that what we're providing can be everything that our gamers want them to be. And our last one, I do have a couple minutes here before Q&A starts. The last one I really wanted to emphasize was my friend Ben, the director from Lawrence Tech University, also teaches a course at Michigan State, and it's an esports business course, and their final exam in the spring semester was pitching a sponsorship deck to myself. So the students, there was about 22 or 23 of them, were able to build a brand for esports. It was a competition team, and then have a different line of sponsorships. They were asking for different amounts. They were providing different benefits. We gave them a couple of systems. For example, how would you handle if a streamer said some pretty profane things on stream, and that was a brand risk for Corsair? So really getting them creative and thinking about some headaches they might have in that space allows them to wrap and feel a lot better about their education and give them a really unique experience they're really not going to have anywhere else. So if there also is any interest in doing collaborations in classroom with Corsair, I'm a great point of contact for that. I'll probably lead that conversation. So feel free to reach out. We're super, super interested in doing some more of those really cool and fun activations coming into this next year. And that pulls us up on time. So if there is any questions, Dr. Seth, I can't see the chat, so feel free to read any of them to me. But yeah, any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Would you prefer me to throw the questions into the Zoom chat, or you want me to read them out to you?
Yeah, you can throw them in the chat. That works.
All right. And if you can read the question before you answer it, so
You got it.
people on there can hear what the question is first. Here's the first one.
So someone asked, what is the most important equipment that you'd recommend getting for a new Scholastic esports program, K-12 or higher ed, beyond the PCs? PCs obviously critical. Really, you can get away with very cheap peripherals in the keyboard and the mouse. A lot of times you don't need the flashy bells and whistles. They're not products I typically recommend. I think my most recommended mouse is the Qatar Pro XT, which MSRP is $35. So it's not very expensive. You don't need all the crazy bells and whistles on the mouse or the keyboard. Headsets is probably what I'm going to shout out for being the most important peripheral component. Now stepping outside of the PC setup as a whole, I think I would probably go with anything that helps you broadcast. For your Rocket League or your Smash Bros. That might look like a stream card, or a video card rather, from Elgato is a great shout. That way you can stream those titles through Twitch, even if they start on console. If you don't need that and you're streaming things that are already on PC, I would probably look at a Stream Deck. It's the most versatile piece of equipment we have beyond just the stream capabilities. And we have a lot of really easy, the Marketplace app provides plugins for Stream Deck, which make it very easy to kind of access and really get up off the ground. So I would say anything broadcast, to kind of take a step away from my brand. Anything to make the broadcast better is what I'd go with. Keep in mind, students can't really say they played in Collegiate League of Legends on their resume, but they can absolutely have running or producing a broadcast on the resume. Will Corsair push these internships into Scotland? That's a great question. I don't operate our internship program, so I can't really talk about the global scale of that yet. But I do know that my colleague Adam Phillips, he's a wonderful asset we have up in the UK. And he and myself can also kind of interface with colleges outside of the internship lens. So if you're looking for work experience that might not be an actual internship, we can help with that for sure. We already do. Adam runs several different partnerships. The Household and College is an example of one of those operations I've done. But in terms of like the traditional job internship side, might be something that you can reach out to me afterwards for, and I'll connect you with our internships team. What is the most common kind of support that Corsair provides for K through 12 programs and then high ed programs? For K through 12, it's definitely different. I would say the most common form we'll do is product. A lot of times those programs at K through 12 are underfunded. Everyone's underfunded, to be fair, but K through 12 especially has difficulty sourcing product. So oftentimes we'd like to provide, that's where you might see us provide some peripherals like keyboard, mouse, headsets, because students just might not have them yet. At college, everyone has their favorite and they might have a part-time job to go buy their favorite. That's where we'll do the Elgato stuff. But any product giveaways we can do for K through 12 tournaments, like you saw with Mount Aloysius, that's really the goal there. For high ed programs, everything is broadcast centric. It's at that stage you should be broadcasting your games. If you're not, you're really missing out on some critical student performance and enhancement elements. So for there, I would say Stream Decks are most common. If it's not Stream Deck, we gave away about 100 key lights this last semester. And that was just kind of, we needed to find some homes, and we found some great homes at some educational programs. Overall, I would say the most common kind of support we provide is our time and branding. We've given away our logo use and a lot of brand use to a lot of schools to be able to put on their broadcast, to put on their website, to share to administration, and kind of, champion that they were able to secure a partnership with a big corporation like Corsair. That's been one of our most successful forms of support.
All right. We have a few minutes, so if you have any other final closing words, I don't see any other questions in the chat.
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you everyone for attending and hearing us out. Like I said, the goal of this wasn't really to talk about product. It was much more so to talk about the good we're doing in the space and what our vision is. I think you'll hear a lot of talking points that I discussed better align with the academic side of esports, because I come from the academic side of esports. So the goal for us is to really make sure that we're doing good as a partner, that we listen to everyone and we provide solutions based on those problems. So yeah, just really excited to see some more conference. I'm very into esports research myself, so looking forward to hearing some more awesome presentations.
Well, hey, to you and to your entire team, we really appreciate your support with the Esports Research Network and Corsair, and we're hoping that we can continue this wonderful partnership that we started with this conference, and maybe we will see Corsair in Japan next year.
I am making every excuse for me to get out there. Trust in that.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that as well. So thank you, Katrina. If you would like to connect with Katrina, I put Katrina's email address in the Twitch chat. You can also see it right behind on the